The day began like any other day in the shared research facility, calm on the surface, but always carrying a quiet tension underneath. The building sat on the edge of a desert plain, far from cities and crowds. It was chosen on purpose, a neutral place where humans and visitors from another world could work together without fear or interruption. Inside, the air was clean, lights were soft, and every sound echoed just a little too much, reminding everyone that this place was not quite normal. The human man arrived early, as he always did. He preferred quiet mornings when the hallways were empty and the world felt slower. He was not a soldier or a politician. He was simply someone chosen because he stayed calm under pressure and listened more than he spoke. That made him useful here. He carried a tablet under his arm and walked with steady steps, already thinking about the long list of tasks waiting for him. The alien woman was already there. She stood near one of the wide observation windows, looking out at the pale sky. Her figure was tall and still, her posture straight without effort. Her presence alone changed the feeling of the room. Even after months of working together, most people felt uneasy around her. It was not because she was aggressive. It was because she seemed powerful in a quiet way, like a storm that did not need to move to be noticed. Her species had arrived on Earth less than 2 years ago. Since then, everything had changed. News channels talked about them every day. Some people feared them. Some admired them. Others simply did not know what to think. The alien woman had become one of the most well-known among her kind, not by choice, but because she was assigned to work closely with humans. She was known for being serious and distant. She spoke clearly, never wasting words. She followed rules closely and expected others to do the same. Many humans avoided eye contact with her, worried they might offend her without meaning to. Rumors spread quickly in places like this. Some said her kind did not understand emotion. Others said they understood it too well. The human man cleared his throat softly to announce his presence. He did not want to startle her. She turned her head slightly, her sharp eyes focusing on him. Her expression was neutral. "As always, you are early," she said. "So are you," he replied. That was how most of their conversations went. Simple, direct, safe. They worked together in the main lab for several hours. He organized data, adjusted equipment, and followed instructions given by both human supervisors and alien specialists. She observed, analyzed, and occasionally corrected errors with calm precision. When she spoke, everyone listened. When she moved, people stepped aside without being asked. Despite all this, the human man did not feel fear around her. He felt curiosity instead. He noticed small things others ignored. The way her eyes changed color slightly depending on the light. The way she paused before answering personal questions, as if carefully translating not just words, but meaning. The way she stood alone during breaks, watching people rather than joining them. During lunch, most staff gathered in groups. Laughter echoed through the cafeteria. Conversations flowed easily among humans. The alien woman sat at a table by herself, her meal untouched as she reviewed information on a screen projected from her wrist device. No one approached her, not because they were told not to, but because no one knew how. The human man hesitated. He had noticed this pattern many times. Today, something felt different. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the way she seemed more still than usual, like she was carrying weight no one else could see. He walked over slowly and stopped a short distance from her table. "May I sit?" he asked. She looked up, surprised, but nodded. He sat down across from her, keeping his movements relaxed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable, but it was heavy. "You do not usually join me," she said. "I know," he replied. "I just thought it might be nice not to eat alone today." She considered this. Then she set aside her device. Very well, she said. They spoke about work at first. Safe topics, schedules, equipment, upcoming evaluations. Her voice was steady, but he noticed something else. She was listening more closely than before, asking questions rather than simply responding. It was a small change, but it mattered. After lunch, they returned to the lab. The afternoon passed slowly. Outside, the light shifted, casting long shadows across the floor. As the day moved toward evening, fewer people remained. Eventually, only the two of them were left in that section of the building. She stood near a console, reviewing results one last time. The human man watched her without realizing it. Not in a strange way, just with quiet awareness. She looked different in the softer light. Less distant. More real. He did not plan to speak. The words came out on their own. You look lovely today, he said. The moment stretched. She froze. Her hands stopped moving. Her breathing changed. Slowly, she turned to face him. Her eyes widened slightly, not in anger, not in confusion, but in something he could not name. The room felt suddenly smaller, quieter, as if the walls themselves were listening. What did you say? She asked. He felt the sudden wave of regret, not because he meant harm, but because he realized he might have crossed a line he did not understand. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean to offend you. It was just a compliment. She stared at him in silence. Her expression shifted, layers of emotion passing across her face in ways humans rarely noticed before. The air felt heavy with something unspoken. That phrase, she said slowly, is not casual where I come from. His heart beat faster. I didn't know, he replied. I truly didn't. She looked away, her gaze returning to the window. Outside, the sky had turned a deep orange. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, quietly, she spoke again. No one has ever said that to me before? The words hung in the air, changing everything. And in that moment, the human man realized that what he thought was an ordinary sentence might have just opened a door neither of them expected. The silence after her words felt heavier than anything he had experienced in that building before. He stood still, unsure whether to speak or remain quiet. The lights above hummed softly, and somewhere far away, a door closed, reminding him that the world was still moving, even though this moment felt frozen. She kept looking out the window, her reflection faintly visible in the glass. Her shoulders were tense, not with anger, but with something closer to confusion. He could tell she was trying to understand what had just happened, not only his words, but her own reaction to them. I did not think humans spoke like that without purpose, she said at last. Her voice was calm, but quieter than usual. He swallowed. Sometimes we do, he said. Sometimes we just say what we feel, without thinking too much about it. She turned slowly, studying his face as if she were seeing him for the first time. That is difficult for me to understand, she replied. Where I come from, words are chosen very carefully, especially words about appearance. He nodded. I guess we're different that way. Yes, she said. Very different. He expected her to tell him to leave or to report the incident. He was ready to apologize again, if needed. Instead, she surprised him. Tell me, she said, why did you say it? He did not answer right away. He wanted to be honest, but honesty felt risky in that moment. Still, something told him that lying would only make things worse. I noticed you, he said simply. The light was different. You seemed lighter somehow. I don't know. I just thought it, and then I said it. She listened without interrupting. Her eyes softened just a little, though her expression remained serious. In my culture, she said, such a statement is not about light or appearance alone. It suggests recognition, acceptance, sometimes even a bond. He felt his chest tighten. "I didn't mean to imply anything like that," he said quickly. "At least, not intentionally." "That may be," she replied. "But intention does not erase meaning." They stood there, facing each other, both realizing that something important had shifted. The line between professional distance and personal connection had blurred, and neither of them knew what to do with it. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, and another human worker appeared at the doorway. Seeing them together, the worker hesitated, sensing the tension, then quietly walked away without saying a word. The alien woman noticed this. Her gaze followed the retreating figure, then returned to the man. "Others will notice," she said. "I know," he replied. "Are you concerned?" She asked. Dottie thought about it. About rumors, reports, misunderstandings. About how easily things could be taken out of context. "A little," he admitted. "But I'm more concerned about how it affected you." That answer seemed to catch her off guard. She did not look away this time. "It affected me more than I expected," she said. They decided to leave the lab for the day. Walking side by side through the long corridors felt different now. The usual distance between them had shrunk, not physically, but emotionally. He was aware of her presence in a way he had not been before, and he sensed that she felt the same. Outside, the air was cooler. The sun had dipped low, painting the sky with deep colors. They stopped near the entrance, where their paths would normally separate. "You should know," she said, "that among my people, such moments are remembered." He nodded. "Then I hope it's remembered kindly." She considered his words, then gave a small, slow nod of her own. "That depends on what follows." That night, he could not sleep. He replayed the moment again and again in his mind. He wondered if he had made a mistake, or if he had unknowingly done something meaningful. He thought about her expression, the way her voice changed when she spoke about her culture. He realized how little he truly knew about her world, despite working so closely together. The next morning, the facility buzzed with quiet energy. Whispers traveled faster than official messages ever could. He noticed people looking at him differently, some curious, some cautious. No one said anything directly, but the shift was clear. When he entered the main lab, she was already there. This time, she turned toward him immediately. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," he replied. Her tone was neutral, but there was something else beneath it. Awareness. Intent throughout the day, she stayed closer than usual. She asked for his input more often, listened carefully when he spoke, and even waited for him before moving on to the next task. To anyone watching, it might have looked like teamwork improving. To him, it felt like something more delicate. During a short break, she spoke again about the previous day. "I reviewed human social behavior last night," she said. "Compliments are common among your people." "Yes," he said. "Sometimes too common, but rarely directed at those considered." "Dangerous," she added. He gave a small smile. "You don't seem dangerous to me." She studied him carefully. "Most would disagree." "Most don't know you," he replied. That statement seemed to affect her deeply. She looked away, her expression thoughtful. "In my world," she said slowly, "I was trained to command fear. Respect was built through distance. Kindness was considered weakness. And do you believe that?" He asked. She did not answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter than he had ever heard it. "I am no longer certain." As the day went on, the reaction to that single compliment continued to ripple outward. Supervisors took note of their interactions. Alien representatives requested reports. Human officials watched closely, unsure whether to intervene or let things unfold. Yet, despite all the attention, the moment remained deeply personal to both of them. Late in the afternoon, she approached him again, her posture more relaxed than before. "I would like to understand humans better," she said. Not from data or recordings. From you. He felt a mix of nervousness and gratitude. I'll help however I can. She nodded. Then perhaps your words were not a mistake. As the lights dimmed and another day came to an end, both of them understood that something simple had changed the course of their connection. A few honest words had crossed cultures, expectations, and fear itself, and neither of them could turn back now. The days after that conversation felt different for both of them, even though the routine of the facility stayed the same. Doors still opened with soft sounds, screens still glowed with data, and people still followed schedules. Yet something unseen had changed, like a quiet current moving beneath everything. The human man noticed it first in the way others behaved around them. People paused longer when they saw the two of them together. Conversations stopped when she walked past, then restarted in low voices. No one said anything openly, but the tension was clear. He had lived his whole life around people, and he understood these signals well. She noticed it too, though she experienced it differently. Her kind was trained to observe patterns and reactions, to measure distance and intent. She saw how humans shifted their bodies when she approached, how their eyes moved, how their voices softened or sharpened. What confused her now was how those reactions changed when she stood beside him. During work hours, they stayed professional. They followed rules, completed tasks, and avoided drawing attention when possible. Still, there were small moments that felt new. A brief glance held longer than before. A pause after a sentence, as if one of them was deciding whether to say more. One afternoon, they were assigned to review environmental data in a quieter section of the facility. The room was smaller, with fewer windows and softer lighting. It felt more private, though cameras were still present, watching silently from the corners. She stood beside him as numbers scrolled across the screen. After a long stretch of silence, she spoke. "I have been thinking about your words," she said. He nodded. "I figured you might. In my society," she continued, "we are taught to control reaction. Emotion is considered a risk, a weakness that others can use." "That sounds exhausting," he said gently. "It is normal to us," she replied. Or it was. He glanced at her, noticing how her posture shifted slightly when she said that. "What changed?" "You," she answered without hesitation. The honesty of it surprised him. He did not respond right away, not because he did not want to, but because he wanted to be careful. He knew how easily things could be misunderstood, especially here. "I don't want to cause you trouble," he said finally. "You did not," she replied. "You caused uncertainty." "That is different." They returned to their work, but the conversation stayed with him. He began to see her, not as a distant figure from another world, but as someone carrying expectations heavier than most humans ever would. Later that day, an official meeting was called. Both human supervisors and alien representatives gathered in a large room. The atmosphere was polite but tense. Topics shifted toward cooperation, boundaries, and public perception. Nothing was said directly, but the message was clear. Everyone was watching. After the meeting, she walked beside him in silence until they reached a quiet hallway. "They are concerned," she said. "Yes," he replied. "They always are. Do you regret what you said?" she asked. He stopped walking and turned to face her. "No," he said honestly. "I regret that it made things harder for you. But I don't regret saying it." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "That answer aligns with your behavior." Over the next few days, she began asking him questions. Not about work, but about humans. Simple questions at first. Why humans smiled at strangers. Why they complimented without expecting something in return. Why they spoke about feelings, even when it made them uncomfortable. He answered as best he could, never pretending to know more than he did. Sometimes he admitted he did not fully understand humans either. "That may be why you are effective," she said once. "You do not pretend certainty." During one of their conversations, she shared something personal. Among her people, she was considered a symbol, strong, untouchable. She had been trained to lead, to represent her species to the galaxy. She had never been allowed to be ordinary. "When you spoke to me," she said quietly, "you did not see a symbol." He shook his head. "I just saw you." That simple statement stayed with her. It followed her through the facility, through meetings, through long hours of observation. It challenged everything she had been taught. One evening, long after most staff had left, she stood alone in the observation room again, the same place where everything had begun. He joined her, not speaking at first. "The sky looks different tonight," he said. "Yes," she replied. "Your planet has many colors." They stood side by side, watching the horizon. "In my world," she said slowly, "connection is rare. Trust even more so." "I get that," he said. "Trust takes time." "You gave it freely," she said. He smiled slightly. "I didn't even realize I was doing it." She turned to him, her expression serious. "That is what makes it powerful." For the first time since meeting her, he saw uncertainty in her eyes. Not fear, not anger, just the weight of choice. "If this continues," she said, "there will be consequences. For both of us." "I know," he replied. "Humans fear what they do not understand," she continued. "My people fear losing control. And where does that leave us?" He asked. She took a slow breath. "At a crossroads." The next day, a formal request arrived. She was being considered for reassignment. A different location. Less interaction with humans. Officially, it was for safety and balance. Unofficially, it was to prevent complications. He learned about it from a supervisor who spoke carefully, choosing words that sounded kind but felt cold. That evening, he found her in the lab, already aware of the decision. "They believe distance will solve uncertainty," she said. "And what do you believe?" he asked. She looked at him, searching his face. "I believe distance will only make it louder." He did not know what to say to that. He felt anger, sadness, and helplessness all at once. Still, he kept his voice steady. "What do you want?" he asked. She paused. No one had ever asked her that before. "I want to understand this feeling," she said at last. "Not erase it." They did not touch. They did not speak more than necessary. But in that moment, they shared something deeper than words. The decision had not yet been finalized. There was still time, still choice. As the facility lights dimmed for the night, both of them knew that whatever came next would test more than rules and protocols. It would test fear, trust, and the quiet strength found in honesty. And it all began with words that were never meant to change anything, yet changed everything. The possibility of her reassignment hung over the facility like a quiet storm. No official announcement was made, but everyone felt it. Schedules shifted. Meetings became more frequent. Security protocols were reviewed again and again. It was clear that something sensitive was happening, and people were afraid to say the wrong thing. For the human man, every day now carried a sense of urgency. He paid closer attention to time, to small moments, to conversations that might soon be lost. He did his work as usual, but his thoughts were often elsewhere. He wondered how a place that claimed to study understanding could be so quick to create distance. For the alien woman, the days were heavier. She was calm on the surface, as always, but inside, conflict grew. She had followed orders her entire life. Duty was not something she questioned. Yet now, for the first time, she felt resistance. Not anger, not rebellion, but hesitation. They continued working together, though everyone noticed how careful they were around each other. They kept space in public areas, spoke in measured tones, and avoided anything that could be misread. Still, their connection did not disappear. It simply moved into quieter places. One afternoon, they were asked to test a communication system in a low-traffic wing of the building. The room was plain, with dull walls and a single table. The task was simple and routine, but the silence between them was not. After finishing the test, she did not leave right away. She stood by the table, her hands resting flat on its surface. "I have reviewed the reassignment terms," she said. He looked up from the screen, and "It would take effect soon," she replied. "Within days." His chest tightened. "Do you want it to?" She did not answer immediately. Instead, she asked a question of her own. Why do humans resist separation, even when it is safer? He thought about it. "Because safety isn't the only thing that matters," he said. "Sometimes connection matters more." She watched him closely. "Even when it leads to pain?" "Yes," he said. "Especially then." That answer stayed with her. Later that day, he noticed her standing alone again, near the same observation window where everything had begun. He joined her without speaking. This had become natural between them. "I was taught that attachment weakens judgment," she said quietly. "And do you believe that now?" He asked. "I believe," she said slowly, "that isolation weakens understanding." The next morning, an unexpected directive arrived. She was asked to give a presentation to both human and alien leaders about interspecies cooperation. It was meant to reinforce boundaries, to show calm authority. Yet she saw it as something else, a chance. He was not supposed to attend, but he watched from a side room through a screen. She stood alone at the center of a large hall. Lights focused on her. Dozens of eyes followed every movement. She spoke clearly and calmly, as always. She talked about trust, communication, and the dangers of fear-based decisions. She did not mention him. She did not mention the compliment. But she spoke about how understanding could not grow without closeness. "Distance may prevent risk," she said, "but it also prevents growth." The room was silent. Some listened with interest, others with concern, a few with clear discomfort. After the presentation, reactions were mixed. Some leaders praised her clarity. Others questioned her direction. Nothing was decided that day. That evening, she found him in the lab, waiting. "You were convincing," he said. "I was honest," she replied. "That's not always the same thing in this place." She almost smiled at that. As days passed, something subtle shifted. Some staff began acting differently around her. Less fear, more curiosity. A few even spoke to her directly without formal distance. She noticed. So did he. One young researcher asked her a simple question about her whole world. Another thanked her for correcting a mistake kindly rather than sharply. Small moments, but meaningful. She later told him, "They are changing." "So are you," he said. "Yes," she agreed. And that is what frightens them. The reassignment decision was delayed. No explanation given. Just time. During that time, they spoke more openly, though still carefully. She shared stories of her training, of being praised only for strength, never softness. He shared stories of failure, of doubt, of choosing kindness, even when it made life harder. "You are not weak," she told him once. "You are resilient in a way my people do not teach." "And you're not cold," he replied. "You were just never given room to be warm." Those words stayed with her. One night, an alert sounded through the facility. A system error, minor but unexpected. Protocol required her presence immediately. She took command with calm authority, directing both alien and human teams. He worked beside her, following instructions without question. They fixed the issue quickly, No damage, no danger. But afterward, something changed. The teams worked smoothly together. There was trust. A supervisor later commented, "You work well together." It was said neutrally, but it meant everything. As the reassignment decision approached again, she requested a private meeting with the council. It was unusual, risky. Before she went in, she found him. "If they decide to move me," she said, "know that what you gave me will remain." He nodded. "Whatever happens, I'm glad I met you." She held his gaze. "As am I." The meeting lasted hours. No one knew what was said inside. When it ended, she emerged calm but tired. The decision was announced the next day. She would remain, under observation, under scrutiny, but present. The reason given was stability, cooperation, improved outcomes. The real reason was something else entirely. That evening, as the facility lights dimmed once more, they stood by the window again. The sky was dark now, full of quiet stars. "You stayed," he said. "Yes," she replied. "I chose uncertainty over silence." He smiled softly. "I think that was brave." "In my culture," she said, "bravery is facing an enemy." She looked at him. "Now I believe it is facing oneself." They did not touch. They did not need to. What they shared was already strong, and both of them knew that the final test was still ahead. The days after the decision felt quieter, but not empty. The facility continued its work, as it always did, yet something important had settled into place. People walked with less tension in their shoulders. Conversations lasted a little longer. Fear did not disappear, but it loosened its grip. The alien woman adjusted to staying, though she knew her position was still fragile. She was watched more closely now, every action noted, every word recorded. Still, she did not retreat. If anything, she became more present. She spoke more often during meetings, not to command, but to explain. She listened when others spoke, even when their words came from fear rather than logic. The human man noticed how people responded to her. At first, they were careful, then curious. Slowly, some became comfortable. Not all, but enough to matter. They did not announce any change between them. There was no label, no clear definition. Yet everyone could feel it. When problems arose, they were often sent to work together, not because of policy, but because it worked. One afternoon, they were asked to help resolve a disagreement between two teams, one human, one alien. Voices had been raised. Data had been questioned. Trust had cracked. She stood calmly between them, letting the room settle. Then she spoke, not with authority, but with honesty. "You are both protecting what you value," she said. "But protection should not come at the cost of understanding." She turned to the human team. "Fear does not mean weakness." Then to the alien team. "Control does not mean superiority." The room grew quiet. Slowly, the tension eased. By the end of the session, a solution was reached. Afterward, a senior official quietly said to the man, "She has changed." He replied, "She's grown." That night, the two of them stood outside the facility for the first time together. The air was cool, the sky clear. Stars filled the darkness, familiar to him, distant yet known. For her, they were reminders of home and distance. "Your world feels less loud here," she said. "It's one of the few places that still listens," he replied. They walked slowly along the perimeter path. Security lights cast long shadows. Neither spoke for a while. "I have been thinking about the first day you spoke to me," she said at last. "I have too," he admitted. "At the time, I thought it was a mistake," she said. "A misunderstanding that would need correction." "And now?" He asked. "Now I believe it was an invitation," she said. "Not one you meant to give, but one I accepted." He smiled softly. I'm glad you did. She stopped walking and faced him. You should know something, she said. Among my people, change is slow, painfully slow. What happened here will not spread quickly. That's okay, he said. Real change rarely does. She looked relieved by that answer. As weeks passed, the facility became a place others watched closely. Reports were sent. Analysts wrote careful words about improved cooperation and reduced conflict. No one mentioned kindness. No one mentioned trust. But those were the reasons. The alien woman began training others from her world who arrived later. She taught them rules and procedures, but also something new. Observe humans beyond threat assessment, she told them. Listen to what they say when they are not trying to impress you. Some resisted. Some questioned her. But a few listened. The human man continued his work, steady and quiet. He did not seek attention. When asked about her, he spoke respectfully and simply. She's someone worth knowing, he would say. That was enough. One evening, a young staff member approached him hesitantly. I was afraid of her, the person admitted. But she helped me fix a mistake without making me feel small. He smiled. She's good at that. She didn't used to be, the person said. No, he replied. But people change. That night, he told her about the conversation. It seems your influence is spreading, he said. She shook her head. It is not influence. It is permission. Humans gave me permission to be more than what I was trained to be. And you gave them permission to see you differently, he said. She considered this. Perhaps we met each other halfway. As time went on, the attention around them faded. Not because they were forgotten, but because they became normal. Two beings from different worlds working side by side, without fear guiding every step. One morning, as sunlight poured through the windows, she spoke quietly. I no longer feel alone here. He paused, then said, Neither do I. That admission stayed between them, simple and true. Months later, an official report concluded that the program had exceeded expectations. Cooperation levels were high. Conflict incidents were low. The facility was labeled a success. The real success could not be written into a report. On the anniversary of her arrival, she stood once more by the observation window. He joined her, as he always did now. Do you regret staying? He asked. No, she said. I regret that I ever believed distance was the same as safety. He nodded. A lot of us make that mistake. She turned to him. If you had known what your words would cause, would you still have said them? He thought for a moment. Then he smiled. Yes, he said, because they were true. She looked at him with something close to warmth, something earned. In my world, she said, truth is often hidden behind power. And here? He asked. Here, she said, I learned that truth can be gentle. They stood together in silence, watching a new day begin. No fear, no titles. Just two individuals who had crossed an unseen line and found understanding waiting on the other side. It all began with a simple sentence spoken without expectation, and it ended with something far greater than either of them had imagined.